as sent ones, even in the season of being sheltered in place. If we haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name's Michael Hudson, and I have the privilege of serving on staff here at Vintage Grace as our groups director. And I have the privilege of helping host these conversations as we hear stories from our everyday missionaries of how they're living out this send mentality, even in the midst of being sheltered in place. And so maybe you're wondering, what does send stand for? What does that mean? And send really is just a call to increased focus on our vision as a church, to build joy-filled communities of faith. And so the way we're kind of doing that is we're breaking down the SEND acronym by serving the city, encouraging generosity, nudging steps, and deploying disciple makers. And so we're excited to continue that conversation, even in the midst of being sheltered in place, because we know that kingdom movement doesn't stop, even as we're sheltered in place. And you can hear my dog barking in the background because guess what? I'm at home. So thanks for rolling with it, guys. If you're watching later, thanks for watching later and joining in on this conversation. We'd just love to get into engage with you guys. If you're here now live, drop a comment on the side, give us a like, say hi. We'd love to engage with you. So today, what we're going to be focusing on is that end piece, nudging steps. What it looks like to be pointing people towards Jesus, nudging steps in the stories of people's lives as we lead them to Jesus. And so as we think about that, I'd love for us to just kind of take a look at this passage, Matthew 9:36 through 38. Maybe you have your alarm set at 9:38 to be praying this prayer with us as a church, of praying for kingdom laborers to rise up. And so this is where we get it from, but I just thought I'd read this passage for us this afternoon as we jump into thinking about what it looks like to nudge steps. It says this: when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. And so that's our prayer, church. We want to pray that kingdom laborers would rise up for God's glory, to be shepherding people, to be pointing them to Jesus, to be nudging steps, to be praying, watching, and stepping, even during the season. And so as we think about that and as we talk about that, I wanted to invite up Lee Stacy. Lee is an amazing volunteer, has been a part of our church for a little bit. But Lee, say hi. Thanks for joining us. It's good to have you. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's just missing people's faces. So it's good to engage even if it's on this platform. So Lee, hey, tell us, how long have you been a part of our Vintage Grace community for?
Our family's been attending Vintage Grace for about 3 years. It's been awesome. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we love having you, in our church family. It's been fun having you guys, and just love getting to do life with you. So, hey, so we got a chance a little bit to talk about nudging steps, and I know, we had a phone call earlier, but I just thought it'd be a cool time for you to share with those watching. How have you been nudging steps in the lives of your family, even during this season, and how has God been kind of leading you in that process?
Well, as a father of 5 teenage daughters, I think I'm a professional when it comes to nudging steps, because that's what it takes to be a dad of teenage girls. Right. But I'm going to start with a story of challenging separations in our family that have helped define us as Jen and I as parents and leaders in our family. When the triplets were born, Sienna was 3 and Michaela was 1, and Jen was in the hospital for 3.5 months for a high-risk pregnancy. During that time, there's a lot of challenges, but in retrospect, we realized that this was a cornerstone moment in our faith. It was a cornerstone moment in us as a couple, and it helped define us as parents. And so we have kind of embraced this, just following Jesus in the middle of these storms, and learning to love others and do it in a joyful way, which we did during that time with the support of the believers around us. So now we're 16 years later, it's COVID-19, and here we are locked down in place, and we have one in college, one going to college, and 3 16-year-olds. And we see this as another opportunity, as we're coming to the end of raising our kids at home. We have all 5 under the roof, and we're able to now launch our girls to kind of take a look at where our girls are and their maturity, just as young ladies, maturity with Jesus and as sisters and as children, and we're able to pour into them. And the path we've chosen is kind of a path of just doing it in a very collaborative, fun way. So we've been engaging all of our kids in the process, kind of part of helping them grow up. So this COVID-19 situation has been a joyful situation that we've fought for, but it has been easy. We've had a few sleepless nights discussing our future. We've had some really tough conversations. We've felt helpless, and in the middle of that, we really leveraged what happened to Jen earlier in our parenting and leaned into Jesus. And through that, we've been able to kind of establish some parameters in how we're behaving during this COVID-19. So I'm here to talk about nudging steps. So I would say nudging steps starts with our relationship with Jesus. So Jen and I, our foundation has to be with Jesus. And with that, we're able to create an environment for our family and for those around us to choose to follow Jesus. So Jen and I follow Jesus. We develop this environment for our kids and for those around us. We pray, and then with faith, we just follow in the middle of it. And we've been doing this in a super fun format. We've had all the kids involved in it, and we are doing, we started with, hey, let's do a family Olympics. You pick the thing. So everybody picked like games. One was making fun food. One was doing reading time. One was doing devotions. One was doing like a family theme night, outdoor games. Anyways, it didn't all work out perfectly, to be quite honest. But what it did end up doing, it morphed into something where we are always challenging ourselves to find fun ways to work together as a family to do things. That has opened up the opportunity for me to have the hard conversations with my children about their future. I have one that's, her college got postponed, and I have one that's going into college, and what does that look like, and where's God in the middle of that? And I've been able to do that in a super healthy way. It's a fight. It's not the pictures on Instagram or the stories we tell are all super hilarious, but we have to fight for that joy, and we have to leverage Jesus in the middle of that. I would say that nudging is a side effect of Jen and I following Jesus and loving others. And so if we look at nudging in our lives, it's not something we intentionally wake up and say, how are we going to nudge those around us? Or how are we going to nudge our children or even each other ourselves? It's more of how are we going to follow Jesus today? What are you inviting us into today? How are we going to love others today? And through that, nudging is kind of an overflow. Since this is about, I believe, our experience in this COVID-19 lockdown, what we call it, I asked the girls for some comments of what they thought the nudging steps were in the Stacy family. So I'm just going to read a few of these real quick. Sarah and Naomi talked about the Olympics, theme nights, games, fun that we've created during this time. They believe that has given them opportunity to talk to a lot of friends who normally wouldn't be reaching out to them, and creating those bridges to help engage in that conversation. Sienna talked about her theology classes that she's taken at Biola. She talked about, she said, our family does a good job in sharing the joy with others, celebrating. She said, this is a good way to nudge people to Jesus. She also mentioned it's very important to put yourself in other people's shoes and build a relationship with them before you start nudging. Michaela said, we do a good job in creating an atmosphere to take the steps and equip others to take the steps. leading by example. She appreciated that we engage our kids in the conversations. When Jen and I have conversations with people around us about Jesus, we engage our kids in those conversations and we talk to them about that. And she appreciated that because she said witnessing us do that has been a blessing to her in her life.
Hmm.
And Hannah says, just go for it. She says, we just go for it in adventures and fun, connecting others uh, and their family needs through this. And depending
Hmm.
on the family and the needs, we adjust and do it a little bit differently.
So cool.
Sorry, my notes have gone away.
Yeah, it's just cool to hear their perspective in the midst of all that, those comments that they're sharing. And yeah, and it's been fun to watch. Even, I've gotten to watch from a distance, and it's just been cool to watch. So any
Yeah.
kind of last thoughts as we wrap up? Or?
Yeah, as I was praying about talking about nudging and just listening to my girls talk about this, is Matthew 4:19 came to mind, and Jesus
Mhm.
said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And what I would say is that nudging is part of us following Jesus. We have to
Mhm.
follow him, and then we can help, disciple to others. And that's really important within our own families. So I would say just take a step back and look at those closest to you, and even look at yourself. Like, how are you following Jesus? And how are
Mhm.
you being discipled to? But then you can start looking at the people within those circles around you. It's amazing what happens when you do that in a joyful, fun way. So the intention of us is to follow Jesus foremost, is to love others, but also do that in a fun format.
Yeah. Wow. Well, man, and that's such a good point there at the end, right? Like we can't care for others until we've cared for ourselves. I know an illustration that we as a staff have been talking about, and we've been talking about in different community spaces, is kind of that air mask illustration, right? When the air mask drops down from an airplane, they always tell you to put it on yourself first before you put it on others, and really that's important because we need to be getting that oxygen before we can care.
Absolutely.
But the same is so true, right, in our relationship with Jesus, like you were saying. Like if we're not
Yep.
spending that intimate time abiding in him, remaining in him, being with him,
Yep.
then how are we going to be able to nudge steps in others? And so that's such a great point. And I think really, if you're watching, I think that's kind of our encouragement to you guys is maybe ask yourself that question between you and God. How have you been spending that time cultivating intimacy in your relationship with the Lord? Because before we nudge steps with others, we have to be a follower of Christ, be intimate with Him, and be a disciple of Him. So Lee, thank you so much for sharing and for just inviting us into what that journey's been like, both the ups and the downs. I appreciate, even your vulnerability there to go, hey, we haven't figured it out. It has been hard because that's the reality, right? That's the reality is that a lot of us find ourselves in different situations and in different seasons, and there are hard times. But like you said, we have to continue to fight for our joy in Jesus, for what He's doing in our lives, and for where He's leading us. So. Thank you for sharing. Hey, I would love to pray for you and for the Stacy family for what God's doing in your guys' lives, and I would, in turn, love to have you pray for our community. Would you up for that?
I can't hear you, Michael.
Oh, sorry. Maybe did my audio cut out? Can you hear me now? Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna pray for you, Lee, and then would you like to pray for us?
Okay.
We'll go for them. God, we just want to take a moment to just come before you, to take just a deep breath. Wherever we find ourselves today, we know that you are Lord and that you are in control. May we just rest in that. God, may we just be in that situation. Would you help us allow ourselves to be ministered to from that place? Uh, I thank you for just the way you're moving in the Stacy's family's life. As Lee was sharing, God, we thank you for the ways in which you are just helping them fight for their joy in you and for the ways that they're seeing kind of some of the fruit and the seeds of what you're doing in the midst of the season, not only in their family, but God, in their relationship with others. We just pray that you would continue to have your way in their lives, God, that you'd have them have a posture of their hearts that first and foremost wants to be with you, to serve you, and to follow you, and then in turn love others out of that relationship. So would you continue to have your way in their life? We thank you for the Stacys.
Michael, I can't hear you, so but I'll pray now because I think you just stopped. So, dear Holy God, just want to pray for everybody watching. I want to pray for the Vintage Grace family. I pray for all the believers out there, Lord, that you are with them, that they're able to find joy in you. I want to nudge them to just lean in on you, to be true followers, and through that, overflowing out of them is them loving others and nudging others. God, I pray that your words encourages everybody that's listening. I pray for the Hudson family, just thankful for them, thankful for the Vintage Grace family as they support us and they look for ways to do ministry in these times. God, I pray that we are all able to be creative to find ways to love others in these times. Pray all these things in the Son Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen.
Amen. Well, Lee, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if anyone else can hear me. So I'm going to sign off here. If you can hear me, hey, this is just the reality. These tech problems happen even as we're doing live streams. And so thanks for joining us. Thanks for having this conversation with us and engaging in what this looks like. Our hope and our desire is that you would continue to just journey with where Jesus has you. Continue to think about what does it look like to live as sent ones, even as we're sheltered in place. And so would you join us again tomorrow as we have another conversation at noon on Friday? We're excited to see you. Thank you guys for being with us, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.